Good evening and welcome to today's episode of Page Turner. Friends, I always believe that wherever a Goan goes, wherever a Goan lives, he or she carries a piece of Goa with him or her. Today we are going to speak to a similar Goan who has brought that piece on paper and has written a beautiful book titled Becoming Goan. We have with us Michelle Mendonca Bambawale. Michelle, welcome to the show. And if I may start asking you, you have written your first chapter and asked a very important question in it. Have you found the answer to that question?
Thanks, Anvesha.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm, I think, continuously torn between am I a real Goan or am I a pandemic migrant? Because people keep saying, you just moved here, you don't know. So I think the whole book and my whole identity has been, am I a real Goan or am I a recent migrant? But I think born into a Goan culture, a lot sort of instinctively, which I didn't realize how much I knew till I moved here. And then, of course, how little I knew, because then I learned so much more.
Yeah, true. And like I always say that, like I have been living in Goa since my childhood, but I don't think I've seen enough Goa. I don't think I have seen so many corners of Goa that I now see on social media, or when, the influencers put up on the social media. So there is always this, this kind of a concern whether are you a real Goan or not. But I would want to ask you, now that you are the insider, now that you have been living here in Goa, is there any difference that you see in how you see Goa today and how you used to see Goa when you used to, come here for holidays?
Definitely. So I think that was one of the motivations for writing the book, because when you live here, you see the connection to the land, the connection to the seasons, the fruits, the flowers, the vegetables, everything is seasonal, everything is syncretic. And you see the whole year cycle. And I realized I learned so much more. So I definitely see Goa completely differently from when I used to come and go.
Yeah, true. And sometimes what happens is when the topic is so close to your heart, you sometimes, lose the objectivity to see towards that topic, especially when you bring it in your writing. And in this book, there is so much of nostalgia, so much about your own village, about your surroundings. So do you think there was need to bring that objectivity in your book, or you just let the nostalgia flow in?
So I think I went back and forth because I could see both sides. I could see, like, being an insider, being a Goan. And then I could see, like, from an outsider, because of many things that I didn't know about the culture. I didn't understand the nuances of the language. So many things I didn't see. So, but I tried to be objective, because every sort of thing I wrote or I observed, I could see both sides. So I tried to sort of document two sides. But you do have your biases as a writer, and I tried to talk about them in the beginning and say, these are my biases and whatever. But it's difficult to be objective because you have a lot of emotion in the writing and in the storytelling.
And there are so many beautiful stories that we have brought in this book, so many legends, so many cultures and customs, especially around Seolim where you live. So was there a need to research about this, or how did you go about getting these stories and then penning it in your book? So did you talk to people about it, or you knew them from your say ancestors or people around you?
So the title of being Goan, I realize, is huge. I mean, you can't it's impossible to become Goan, because it's such a multicultural, dimensional. I realize that each village has so many unique traditions, so many feasts, so many festivals. And then when I started thinking about it, I'm like, I have to focus on Seoli, because then I will do justice. So I went back and forth, and then I said, okay, I'll have one chapter on Seoli, which then became 3 chapters on Seoli. But the interesting thing about the legends is, of course, I started with St. Anthony's Church, because everybody knows about St. Anthony's Church, and the Sanjao. Those were the 2 very big ones that you know about Seoli. And then as I started thinking, all the books, there's all this eminent Goans, and you have to write about this one. And everyone I spoke to told me many people who I had to write about. But then as I tried to put things together, I realized, Manghilar, mangoes, football had come from Sioli. So it's like many things, all the Zagor, when you talk to anyone, they say Sioli Zagor. So many things which I didn't know about. I sort of tried to document them, and it's not complete. I mean, there are many more chapels, temples, zors, legends, guardian spirits, many things that I have not written about, because I'm like, how much detail can I put?
Right. And I think you can actually write independent books on the people who are there in Siolim. I mean, Remo, Alexian, so many of them. And like you said, Zagor, football, these are like, books in itself, topics for books in itself. So it's a wonderful thing. And Michelle, we usually, when we speak about Goa, we usually say that there is very thin line between the village and the city life. So what's your take on that, especially when you're now staying in Siolim? Do you think there's a thin line, or do you see a vast difference when it comes to cities and villages in Goa?
So there used to be a very vast difference, which I talk about in the nostalgia chapter. When I came here in the 70s, even I got married in 89, and in this house, we still had piggy toilets. So, that has sort of got blurred over the years, and more so in the pandemic. I mean, I started the extension on this house like now 20 years ago. That time, like, I couldn't get any tap, I couldn't get any TV, nothing. I had to go to Panjim or to Mapsa. Now you get everything. You get swimming pool accessories here. The problem about it being different to a city is there is no sewage system. And that is a huge problem, because we have wells. Then the whole water problem, the garbage collection, the parking, the traffic. I mean, with no public transport, it's a big problem. The last bus is like 5:30 or 6 o'clock. So all those problems, it remains a village. If you drive or whatever, it's okay to go out, but many people don't. So that is the dilemma. If we had the sort of municipality, the garbage collection, the sewage system, the electricity, like even when we had that Takte, the cyclone, we didn't have, like, for 72 hours and all. People in Panjim were like, what are you talking about? They turned it off for half an hour, the electricity. So there is a big difference in terms of the infrastructure, but now not in terms of the shops and the restaurants and the supermarkets and those things. So I wish the development would be more planned. So that is the tragedy. That's why I have that whole chapter on like urban rural purgatory, because if we stayed a village, it would be nice. We'd have a village lifestyle, but we don't. We're in the middle now.
And I think people are still pouring in. I mean, that divide is not there when it comes to where people from outside and coming in, settling down. So like you said, the basic infrastructure certainly has to improve. And Michelle, you have very nicely put a lot of concerns in your book. So I want you to shed a little light on that. Do you think, are we losing the Goa that we love so much? Is there that concern? Is there a kind of a thread that you see to Goa?
So there is, I think. I think because, I mean, people come for the peace and the beauty, and what happens then is you bring whatever your culture, your big city, busyness, and then you sort of don't realize that there's an indigenous culture that you need to respect. So I think that's the concern in the book. Also, again, in Sioli, there has been so many problems with, like, right here, across the road from my house, like barely like 50 meters, there are like 6 big projects come, and where there was open fields or there were coconuts, they're just luxury villas coming. And that becomes a big concern because people come without realizing the local culture. And then, you have your house, there's no parking, there's no water, there's all these other problems. So that is my concern, both from a sort of built culture as well as you know, the culture of the place, which is you can't define.
Right. And I think Seolim is fighting its own battle and kind of, making a few improvements, I would say, and winning small battles in its own.
It was,
And I really hope that people across Goa also, take example from these small steps that are being taken in different villages, so that we as Goans can save the Goa that we always wanted to see and we have always been seeing. Michelle, you have published this book and it's been quite a lot of time now, and you have been traveling across India with the book. So how is the response at home and also outside home?
So at home, I think people are happy because they feel that, yes, she's understood the culture and she has given the whole picture. And outside Goa, people have realized that we've seen a different Goa, which we didn't see, which is, I think I talk about the stereotypes a lot. So people sort of see Goa just from that lens of first it was Bollywood and now it's Instagram. So just those lenses of just beautiful beaches. Just go to Goa, there are beaches, there are shacks, you drink beer and that is the life. So I've said, many people have said, I didn't know there was so much to Goa. I have learned a lot from your book. So the response has been good. It was difficult to write because, issues of identity and this whole insider outsider tightrope. So I mean, when I was writing it, I kept saying, should I, shouldn't I? But the culture was changing so fast that I felt I needed to record it. And then after that, you never know like what reaction you're going to get. So so that was it.
And I think you've done a wonderful job. I loved the last chapter of the book, especially not just because you have listed the various places that you love so much, but you have given a very beautiful pointers what you shouldn't be doing in Goa, which I feel is very, very important, because a lot of people don't realize what they shouldn't do. They come with their own ideas of Goa and what they would do in Goa. So if I may ask you, before you read a small part from your book, what is one thing that is very unique to Goa from your perspective that we need to preserve and give it to the next generation?
So I think definitely the biodiversity in terms of the flora, the fauna, the birds, the animals, also the culture, which is syncretic and which is so multicultural, because it was a port city and so many, a port place and so many sort of influences. So I think it's always been multicultural, and I think that's what we need to preserve.
Thank you, Michelle, and we would certainly want to hear from you a small part of your book, and I of course want our viewers to read the book in totality.
Thank you.
But it would be lovely if you can read a small part from your book for us.
Okay, there's one part which sort of answers your first question, which I like to read. It's from the first chapter, Who Am I, a Real Goan or a Pandemic Migrant? Over the years, coming to this house has given me a sense of belonging. I feel a connection to a culture that was familiar yet alien. In India, people always want to know, but where is your native place? Where are you from? In work situations, the question is usually a superficial icebreaker, or in social situations, cocktail party conversation. I stumble and stammer. I lived in Pune till I was 20, so that should make me Maharashtrian. But most Indians identify as Malayali, Bengali, Punjabi and Gujarati, even if they have never lived in any of those states. I guess that's how it works. So going by ancestry, I'm Goan. In contemporary Goa, when I answer the same question, it is met with wonder. You are from here, a real Goan, a local. Goa enthusiasts and Goa files have often asked me about my Portuguese ancestry, my Portuguese house, and if my parents or grandparents spoke Portuguese. I have no Portuguese history, my roots are Goan. The labels I struggle with are Goan, local, Portuguese, migrant, outsider, and foreigner. I wonder what they mean to me.
Very true. And I think a lot of us, in spite of staying in Goa for a long time, have been asking this question, where we belong to. Like, people also ask me, where are your roots from? Now that I stay in Margao. And I always tell them, okay, this is where I was born and this is where my native place is. But I think we all need to ask this question in today's time, especially when we are kind of losing the Goa that we all loved so much. And I hope writers like you and the entire writers community, for that matter, can bring these important questions on paper, and we, all of us, can, you know, kind of find answers to those questions. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Page Turner, and thank you to our viewers too for joining us today. And we hope you have already followed Rits and Books and Palash Agni Studios. Do keep watching Page Turner, and we would be back with more episodes soon. Thank you so much.